Okay, I'd like to call the Halifax Elementary School Committee meeting to order on October 3rd at 6:05 p.m. Thank you, Area 58, for filming. I'm required to notify our committee that I did receive an email stating that a member of the public body would like to privately record part of our meeting, so I'm required to tell you that. And we always start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Would anybody in the audience like to be acknowledged or scheduled to speak at this time? Be acknowledged or scheduled to speak at this time?
Yes, please.
Okay, can you just state your name and go ahead? I'm going to cap you at 3 minutes.
I'm sorry?
We give the public body 3 minutes to speak, each individual.
I'll read an email that I wrote to you, but because of some circumstances, I didn't hear back from you.
I don't know. Can you state your name? I'm sorry.
Mailing. I am writing to you about my concern.
Can you state your name?
Ian.
I'm sorry?
What's your last name? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Mailing. I am writing to you about my concern with the proceedings of the last school committee meeting. Would you be able to more clearly explain the need for your curriculum subcommittee? Isn't there a position held by someone in the district to work on and oversee the curriculum? You gave an example of a writing prompt regarding the Christopher Columbus holiday as a reason for you and another member to look at the curriculum. You were aware of the whole assignment, correct? That it was an opinion piece and the students were able to state their own opinion. You also mentioned that you could help guide the people who had a concern with curriculum at the elementary school. There are many qualified people at the school who could answer questions about the curriculum. If, of course, a person was too shy or hesitant to talk to someone at the school about what their child was doing, then by all means someone could support them, but I believe it would be a friend or relative, not a member of a subcommittee. Which brings me to your original idea that you need to dig deep below the surface level of the standards and curriculum of the elementary school. And I cited a couple of websites that you could look at, but also the curriculum, the person who has the curriculum position sent something out today. Finally, I am gravely concerned with your statement about school committee members being on opposite sides of the spectrum. I'm not sure what spectrum to which you are referring. I have heard you state that you are one of the more conservative members of the committee. Please be more clear in what you mean, as the school committee is not opposed to or elected to, based on your party affiliation. I look forward to hearing from you.
Anyone else like to speak at this time? Go ahead.
I'll stand here if that's okay. I think I'm listening to the right one. Public comment, right?
Yep, yep.
Okay, cool. First time, so.
That's okay.
Really cool with me. My name is Justin Silva. I'm from 50 Clyde Bosworth Road. My daughter goes to the elementary school. I reached out to some members on the committee whose emails I can find to just kind of have a discussion about some of the concerns I had about school security, safety and security. Obviously, I think that's going to be on the agenda later on this evening, perhaps. But I just wanted to discuss some of those concerns, and I apologize if I can speak broadly, because I think some of these concerns are best left for maybe executive session. But if I can quickly provide some of my background to get past some credibility in my assessment. I've been working in public safety since I was 17 years old. I'm acutely familiar with the ALS curriculum. I'm trained in tactical combat casualty care. I've been through ASHA training probably like 6 times at this point. At my current department, I'm part of a team that has and continues to develop SOPs and tactics, techniques, and procedures to address active shooter type events. Part of my job is evaluating after action reports and from incidents that are of particular concern. So before I leave, I was going to provide you an after action report that I sent to some of your emails that's specific to the Uvalde, Texas school shooting. I would implore you to read that report if you haven't read it already. It's difficult to read, it's quite heartbreaking, but for those of us in a position to affect change and create plans, it's really important that we read it and become very familiar with that document and exactly what happened down there. In that after action report, I've already read through it a few times and highlighted some sections that I'd like you to kind of, if you would, pay close attention to. You'll recognize some of the problems that I've outlined. They're going to sound familiar to you, I think. I've also included in the packet a product that addresses some concerns that were identified at the hall date, which are presented in the after action. That after action report is written by Texas A&M University through the Alert Institute, which is a law enforcement institute. Prior to coming here, I did speak to Chief Jobs, and he's aware that I was coming here tonight, kind of the product that I'm going to be presenting to you. This was the direction he guided me in to say, this is something you should probably talk to the school committee about. Full disclosure, I have no financial interest whatsoever in the company, the product, the installers, the retailers, none of it. Just a concerned parent who's unfortunately probably like way too informed on this stuff at this point. So that's really it. Just wanted to kind of run it by you. I'm going to grab that envelope, give it to you. All the information is in there. Please read the after action report. It's not easy to read, but there's a lot of really important information in there. Some stuff that's going to be particularly concerning, but probably best left for executive session so you can talk amongst yourself in a less public setting. So I'm just going to grab that for you.
Are there multiple copies in there, or is it one?
In this, going green, and save.
Okay. Maybe we can scan it and send it to the rest of the committee.
Yeah, information about the product is in there too. There's a bunch of schools across the Commonwealth that are already installing this, so it's kind of like a get in line type situation. But it's all right there, and I've reached out to a couple people by email, so if you have my phone number or email, you know where to find me. If you have any questions, I'm always available. My phone's always on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Silva, I did not receive an email from you. I have been having trouble with my email, or else I would have responded, because I do respond to anybody who sends me an email. I apologize. I'll look to the chair to see maybe if she can forward, or if maybe you could try it again if you didn't.
You responded to my email.
This was what month?
This was about a month or so ago, but no, you did positively respond to the email. So no issues there. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
I wanted to talk with the parent. Karen Townsend, real quick. So I just wanted to talk as a concerned parent. At our meeting on August 29th, Ms. Schmalling mentioned an assignment that was done by students here at AGS, and that was concerning to me as a parent. So I wanted to get some more information about it. Ms. Schmalling stated that students were asked to write an assignment about, quote, how we should cancel Columbus Day. Of course, that sounds extremely biased, so I was concerned. Sought out more information on that. And a friend of mine actually gave me an information request with an email dated 10/15 of last year, where Ms. Schmalling asked Mr. Beaudry about the assignment, and he provided her with the writing prompt, which was not, we should cancel Columbus Day. Connection to the frameworks, the texts that were supplied to the students, which were all from approved platforms by the school. Samples of writing on both sides of the issue, because it was a persuasive essay, and some students said, yes, we should cancel Columbus Day, and some are not saying it themselves. Some said, yes, we should celebrate Columbus Day, and some said, no, we should not, and those examples were given. So, just as a fellow concerned parent, I just wanted to make sure that we were aware of what the actual prompt was that was mentioned at our meeting on August 29th.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on. We need to review and vote the regular minutes of August 29th, 2022. If everybody's had a chance to look at them, I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular minutes of August 29th.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Did you vote?
I did not yet. So I just did not abstain on one of the motions.
Oh, I actually did notice that.
On the motion to form a curriculum review subcommittee, it says that I abstained and I voted no.
Okay, so,
I also wasn't sure if we should add I asked Ms. Schmalling for a specific sentence that would describe the goal of the subcommittee, and I didn't know if we should add that so that it was clear in the minutes what the goal of the subcommittee would be. I'm not sure if we can add that or not.
We've kind of gone back and forth with this about putting in specific sentences about things, and we kind of...
Summer, sorry, no, we can't hear a single word. I know it's hard because we're in a small space, but nobody here can hear anything
Okay.
going on. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I think we do need a motion to amend the vote. And what I was just saying before was that in the past, we've had discussions going back and forth about how nitpicky we want to be with our minutes. And so we sort of err on the side of, we've gone all the way to being super detailed to being, overly general. And so, I mean, if you want to make a motion to amend the minutes, you have that right, but it has to be voted on. But again, in the past, when we start detailing every conversation that we have, the minutes are going to be 47 pages long.
It was a half an hour conversation, but I just thought that since the goal was explicitly stated for this brand new subcommittee that's never existed before, I just thought that one sentence would be something that we should add to the minutes.
Okay, so are you going to make an amendment?
Yes, please, to add the goal that you said would be to examine and digest the curriculum and to changes that are ever flowing is the goal of the newly formed curriculum subcommittee. And then also that I voted no.
Okay, so those are two separate amendments, so you need a second for each of them, for each motion.
I'll second.
Both of them? Okay, so first we need a vote on amending the language to include the goal. All those in favor of amending to include the language? Opposed? No? You abstain?
I was saying, there's a lot of other things that we can come to the parents level.
Okay, so it doesn't pass, so that stays. And then we need a motion to amend the vote, which you seconded. So all those in favor of amending to correct the vote? To correct Karen's vote because it was a mistake in the minutes.
Okay.
Aye. Okay. So do we need a new motion for the amended minutes? To approve the amended minutes? Yes. Okay.
I'll make another motion to approve the amended.
Okay. Can I get a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next, we have a legal brief that was presented to us by our legal counsel and the administration concerning Juul vaping and litigation that's moving forward. And I just wanted the superintendent to kind of give us a brief overview. She sent it to me, and I thought it was appropriate to bring it back to the whole committee to decide whether or not we were going to participate in this. So I also like to hear a little more about it, so if you don't mind.
Not at all. So Mass Association of School Superintendents have sent out a memo regarding Juul vape litigation, and it's from the Mass Association of School Superintendents attorney, Michael Long, in his opinion or summary of what is going on. The case seeks to hold Juul and other companies producing vaping products financially responsible for enticing adolescents to begin vaping and for the resulting harm to young people. Because vaping impacts the educational environment, the plaintiffs seek damages for school systems in the form of vape detectors and curriculum. The case is scheduled for trial in San Francisco in November. It is not proceeding as a class action lawsuit. This means access to damages awarded, if any, are limited to actively participating plaintiffs rather than claimants who are members of a broad, innumerable class or group of entities of people suffering harm. Participation would require a vote of the school committee. A district commitment would require submission of an affidavit, as had been circulated from the firm. The Mass Association of School Superintendents is not endorsing or discouraging participation in this case. Our own counsel said that we could receive some economic benefit in the event of a judgment or a settlement. Some of the The arguments against participating is that you could be required to spend time and resources assisting with the litigation if it went forward. This is usually unlikely. For example, we may have to produce documents, answer questions, interrogatories, or depositions. To which one of our school committee chairs asked if it became too burdensome, could we withdraw? And that would require us to file a motion with the court to withdraw if we decide to participate. So it's not impossible. Should we find that this become too cumbersome, we could withdraw, or we'd have to file a motion with the court. The benefits are that if we agree to participate, this would be the only way that we could have access to the curriculum or vape detectors, which is likely what's being sought from these companies. So those are some of the pros and cons, but in order to participate, in order for Halifax schools to get any of the benefits, should there be a benefit to this court case, it would have to vote, and then we would have to agree to participate. And Attorney Dubray could take care of that for us in terms of signing off and the chair signing off if that's the direction we need to go, but we would have to have a vote from this committee. Well, it's going to take, yeah, this is our last chance to vote before November as a school committee.
Are we allowed to comment at this point?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we can have a conversation.
My thoughts are I know the high school is not under or the middle school even, but I think the 6th graders are really close to it. You know, it's like they're,
Unfortunately.
yes,
They're
right.
That'd be an issue.
So, while I think some might say that it's not an issue at the elementary school, I'm actually not sure, honestly. But I do know it's a huge issue at the middle and high school, and it starts somewhere, right? So, and I feel like education is always the best way to curb behaviors, or, you know, having an understanding, having the knowledge of, you know, when someone, you know, just teaching really. Education changes so much, and I feel like if we start when they're younger in the elementary school and can have access to non-vaping curriculum, I mean, it's such an issue at the high school that like nobody even wants to go to the bathroom there because they can't, you know, and so if we could start younger with education, I think it would really benefit our community.
Mr. Beaudry, I have a question for you. Refresh my memory, do we have like a no smoking, drugs are bad kind of a curriculum in the elementary school right now? Yes? No? Like health class, part of the health class?
I mean, Mr. Ruisi touches on it in his 5th grade health and wellness curriculum, but it's not like it's specific to no drugs or anything like that. But it is part of something that he teaches, health and wellness. But it's only to 5th grade students.
Does he talk about smoking?
I imagine that I would have to ask him, but I imagine it's part of the health and wellness grade 5 standard.
Because I don't see why participating in this lawsuit would prohibit us from also wrapping vaping into that conversation. If we're already talking about, I mean,
It's reasonable. I mean, we don't have to wait to start. I mean, it's, you know, awareness, but something that could help. I know the vape detectors have been effective at the middle school. I don't know.
Do we have them at the middle school?
Yes.
Yes. Oh.
So, I mean, and like I said, I feel like 6th graders are getting more mature. 5th graders now too. I mean, I think that, you know, like starting the education would be great, but this could also benefit us without a huge financial impact, it seems. I mean, maybe research but I mean, time is worthwhile, but.
I mean, we do small scale what we do. We do drug awareness, but it's very limited.
I think
And same thing with social media as well. We try and work with our 6th graders and even our 5th graders, but it's pretty small scale. It wouldn't hurt to expand it. Because like you said, it's coming 7th and 8th grade, and we're seeing it more and more with our 5th and 6th graders. But I don't know those conversations.
Does the superintendent have an opinion?
Oh, boy. I think Again, without knowing what the curriculum is, it's hard to say that it's worthwhile. I don't know to what extent. I'm assuming that part of it will be that it will be required to be research-based and a quality curriculum that schools may benefit from. But I don't know the determination of the court, and I don't know how that will be expressed or packaged and presented. It may be, what I do know is if you don't participate, you won't have access to things that the court decides are an appropriate compensation, such as vape detectors and the curriculum itself. But having not seen the curriculum, I can't say for certain, this is wonderful, we need to implement this.
If we participate in this suit and the benefits are awarded to us, we're not required to institute anything, it's just offered to us as a...
Yeah, but part of that financial benefit would be the vape detector,
Yeah.
is what you're talking about. Is that included to what?
Yeah, that's what I mean, is it would
Why-
be a benefit,
yeah.
but also, how long do we want to wait?
Right, exactly. Well,
We're
how much-
pressing issue
right.
right now, that,
Agreed.
so I don't know how we can address it sooner, but also, I mean, if we don't have to accept it, if we don't agree with necessarily what it is, I don't see any harm in participating, but I also would like to not wait until this occurs, because I think it's a really important issue affecting so many kids.
I have mixed feelings only because I agree with what you're saying, only because I don't know what kind of precedent it's setting. So what's coming next? What lawsuit's going to come next where we have another group saying, well, we found that this affects children and so we're going to offer this benefit in this lawsuit, and I don't know. That's really my only hesitation is what door are we opening by participating in this?
Well, I feel like we'd never be forced to do it.
Yeah, it's always an option.
Yeah, I mean, if it has to be voted on, you can take it on a case-by-case basis.
I agree. I also understand what Summer's saying, and it's throwing our support behind what?
Right.
Well, you support that? I understand what you're saying. I see both sides of it.
I do too. I'm very neutral on this, honestly, because I see the benefit, and I like the fact that we have potentially access to resources, especially considering we're always in a bind here. I mean, financially.
It sounds like it's actually needed, honestly. I mean, with what Mr. Beaudry is saying, it's very much needed, so.
You're talking about two different things possibly, then looking at something immediate and then considering this.
Right.
But I guess we have to consider this tonight and then talk about what's needed immediate.
Well, I mean, if we can say no, I don't see any harm in supporting it, like when they come back. I mean, they can't force it into the school, but just, if we don't participate, the door is shut.
Did Russ indicate that, our legal counsel, did he indicate that this wouldn't be a burden to him in his time? And
we would file an affidavit stating our position, our willingness to participate. He basically said we could receive some economic benefit. His only concern was that it may require some documentation on our part. It may require, for example, documenting how many students have been disciplined for vaping in our schools, those kinds of things, which would probably be a heavier burden on our middle and high school than it would be, I would imagine, the records at the elementary school.
How many kids have been called vaping in elementary school?
I am. And 12 years that I've been here.
Why is there do you have any idea why only 2 districts have joined? It says here that 2 districts in the state have joined. Why are there not more?
We don't know. And there's been no discussion among the Mass Association of School Superintendents. We haven't had a group meeting since this briefing came out.
With the high school?
we're voting only for elementary.
Right.
Right.
Is that any other road?
Oh, no, we haven't had our
No.
meeting at Salt
Right,
Lake
so
yet.
Halifax is
we're-
first. leading the way.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that it's getting younger and younger now. I mean, so many parents are vaping now. The kids can just see them vaping, take their vape, and the parents don't even notice that they're missing lunch at this point. They're all disposable. They're not even tools anymore. You don't replace the pods, you do all that, you buy them and landfill them.
Well, it is an issue. And the school that I'm associated with has 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and it is an issue. Not only using, but selling. And so I would imagine that it's as young as 4th and 5th grade are being affected as well. So I'm happy to hear Mr. Beaudry has not reported any incident or has any reports of any incident in this school. That's encouraging. Whether it's happening or not, we don't have detectors in the bathrooms, right? So
Yeah.
I guess I would agree that this is probably a good thing.
I think, too, the purpose here is to put the burden, the expense of the creation of a research-based curriculum on the shoulders of the companies that have benefited from students who are using and now addicted.
I feel like it reminds me of the tobacco lawsuits from when we were all younger, and how that education has really impacted people's health in a positive way. And I really have heard that kids believe juuling doesn't, or vaping doesn't harm you. They really believe it doesn't harm you. I'm not sure. So I don't know. Like I said, education is always a good thing, but.
Okay, well, we can move the question. So does somebody want to make a motion to either participate or not participate in the dual vaping litigation?
I'll make a motion to participate in the dual vaping litigation.
Okay, we need a second.
Second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right.
We'll see how it goes.
Thank you.
Please keep us posted.
I will.
All right, warrants are sitting in front of me. Thank you. Christine?
Yes, you have 9 warrants totaling $235,873.84 that are circulating right now for tonight. And then after our last meeting, the week after, we had 11 warrants totaling $370,418.29 that were brought to the Halifax Town Hall, and our single signature signer, Jessica Page, went into the Town Hall.
New business, I have none. Unfinished business, I have none. And I have nothing for future agenda items. Anybody else? Okay. Subcommittee's policy has not met between our last meeting and now. Negotiations, we met with the custodians and we have an executive session following this meeting. PAC, who's PAC, you?
I am nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Youth and Rec?
Yes, I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Steele. As always, I thank him for his work and commitment to this organization and this town. Fall and winter basketball will be starting soon. I believe last week in October is for the girls, and the boys will start shortly thereafter. He is working very diligently to, I think he needs 2 more vendors, 2 more bids for the tennis courts. He has one. It is a struggle to find vendors to take on the work. After-school programs are at full capacity, going well. He did, I believe he mentioned that he spoke with Mr. Beaudry. I could be wrong about an after-school art program, or it is in the works. It will be starting in a couple of weeks, which is fantastic. And I guess that we had that before, but that art teacher had since left, and now there's somebody else who's going to be taking that on.
He's coming back.
Oh, she's coming back. Oh, great. Even better. Okay.
We have a couple more programs to go back. Talk to him.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave that for you, because he told me that he spoke with you and Mr. DeSantis about recruiting teachers, or putting the word out to our teachers for after-school programs. He mentioned that there's a sense of comfortableness, the students who had already know, rather than having somebody from the outside come in, the teachers were already here, so he's hoping that there may be a few teachers who have some extra time and might be able to just say, I'll leave that for you then. That's what I have from Mr. Steele.
Thank you. PTO?
The PTO met on September 14th. There was some reorganization, but Christina Wilson is still currently the president. Mr. DeSantis gave some updates, one being that they are still in search of a school psychologist. And there was also some movement with the adjustment counselor as well as the behaviorist. But I did follow up with them, and there's always been at least one of those three individuals on staff to address students in crisis or any counseling that's needed. So definitely a tough situation, but hopefully they'll be able to get those positions filled. There's going to be a turkey trot this year. The Halifax Teachers Association is hoping to run their family fun night, which is great. They also mentioned the after-school programs there, like sports and art. The Fun Foam Party was scheduled for the Summer Reading Challenge. And then the biggest conversation was the Boosterthon. Representative from the Boosterthon was there, and he mentioned the curriculum that they would be administrating to the students during the day. And so I searched the Boosterthon website just to kind of familiarize myself with the curriculum, and I did notice that SEL, or social emotional learning, was part of the curriculum. And I know that Ms. Schmalling mentioned last meeting on August 29th that she had lots of parents that were very concerned about social emotional learning in the schools. So I wanted to make sure that, any parent concerns were addressed. So the social emotional learning for the Boosterthon by the PTO was lessons about gratitude, stewardship, bravery, perseverance, and wonder. And then I did ask the Boosterthon rep as well as administration to make sure they shared all relevant materials with parents so that they would be privy to the information that their children are being exposed to through the Boosterthon, and they did do that. They sent that out via social media as well as in Mr. Beaudry's Friday notes. They are going to run the book fair in October, Mingle and Jingle in December, and then they were able to grant lots of teacher wish list items.
Thank you. Capital budget did not meet. Admin review did not meet.
October 27th will be our meeting.
Okay.
It hasn't met, you're right.
When is that meeting? I'm sorry.
October 27th.
Curriculum review has not met yet. Union 31, we have a joint meeting
December 1st.
December 1st.
We may have one before then,
Oh, right.
but
Yes.
we don't know yet.
Not confirmed on the date yet. Mr. Beaudry?
If I may, Mr. Beaudry, I know Mr. DeSantis is not here again tonight. He wasn't here last meeting either, so he wasn't able to make it tonight.
No, we've just kind of been trying to divide and conquer between, he's been going to the PTO meetings, I've been coming here.
The only reason I asked him was last year he was here for most meetings, and I just know he wasn't here for the first two. Might he be here for the November 14th meeting?
You would like him here, that I
I just thought maybe he, as assistant principal at the school committee meeting in his school, maybe he would be here, if he's available.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so to piggyback a little bit on the after-school programs, so we have sports is up and running. It's been going on for longer than I've been here. Art is in the works, and we're also looking at getting a STEM program that we had previously. And then there's discussion about having a newspaper club as well. So we're coordinating with Big Steel and Youth Rec to get those programs up. It's pre-COVID. They were running pretty good pace and things were going really well. We'll keep you posted as we get The current enrollment is at 561. Our kindergarten, or actually our whole school is at one full month of books. Kindergarten had a great start, class of 2035. I actually have my own. That's 2035. It's crazy to think, but they've been great, and it's having the setup that we have where kindergarten started the week afterwards, so we're able to screen the students and acclimate them into the school a little bit slower. Is a big help because we haven't done that in previous years.
Just ask a question. And it's okay if he just, or if I said it wrong, or if he said it wrong, but I thought that Mr. DeSantis said at the PTO meeting it was 547. We had 14 new students since that meeting.
No.
Okay.
547?
Maybe I wrote it wrong. I don't know, but I thought that's what he had said.
Right now, it might have been a typo.
That's fine. Okay, just
But right now, I checked power, so we'll look at 561.
561.
And we had open house on September 8th. It was a great turnout. It was good weather. Lots of positive feedback from families, from staff. Yeah, it was just excited to have families back in the building and back in the classrooms. Sharing all the equipment that we have here. Pto Boosterthon, another year. So this is, I think, might be the 4th year that we've done the Boosterthon. In years past, I think we've done it in the springtime. It's a little busy, so last year tried it in the fall, and even this year again put it in the fall. So it's, I think our numbers are coming in. We had raised a little over $30,000, so we're excited to again have that money raised from the PTO, because I know they're sometimes a little limited with people that are on board there, but this is a big fundraiser for them, so they're not doing 5 or 6 smaller fundraisers, so this one is a good one that has been very successful, and it's pretty easy. Boosterthon comes in and they kind of run everything for us. It's very little that we have to do besides communicate up to staff, so appreciate that for work. It's probably in the works for next year what they do, but
And one round of double circles. So you want to out there.
It's good, but I mean, the Boosterthon is great. We've been working with them for several years.
It was cute. It's cute.
It's a nice thing that we get, and the character traits that they build in. It's kind of nice because they go into the lunchroom during that. And we get 2 spaces again that they're using for lunch, and they go in there and they talk about different character traits. It's good. It's 6th grade, I think sometimes they'll struggle but to get them motivated about it, but the younger students are really pumped about it and they really enjoy, being part of the whole program. So, we have the Halifax Heroes. They're starting that up. That's something that we've been doing in the past. It's our monthly recognition that's aligned with our second step curriculum. We talk about different character traits that staff that recognize students for demonstrating that those character traits that we seek to have. October is bullying prevention month. These classroom lessons that focus on teaching students recognizing, reporting, and teaching.
I'm sorry, one more time. October is
bullying prevention month. And so it's a lot of the lessons during the month of October. They focus on, refusing, reporting, and recognizing bullying.
So this is done in each classroom or one specific?
Part of the SEL curriculum that we have a second step. We just have some dates to remember in there. We have Columbus Day coming up on the 10th. I'm trying to figure out what the PTO meeting, if it's on the 19th. I'm not sure it's usually
I think that the current president thought that maybe she would no longer be president and was going to leave it up to them, but she still is. But then I think that she still never decided on a date. There were so many new appointees that night that she decided to wait and see what would work for them. So I don't think they decided on a new date yet.
So typically just put it the 3rd Wednesday is when they have had them in the past. So that's why I put little question marks in there. Scholastic Book Fair running from the 24th to the 28th. We have a picture retake day on the 25th, progress reports on the 26th, and we have fall conferences on the 27th. That's all.
Is the new school council formed this year?
The student council or
School council.
we need new members, so I'll send out information, and we can ask for, looking for new members if we need to. And student council, that's also in the works because we need staff to run it. Staff that can't only get for the full year. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Healy?
Thank you. I want to say, when you were mentioning King, the Scholastic Book Fair, I know it's been a long time since I was in school, but I loved that. Like, that still makes me happy to hear that. It does. In the old days, you have to have a little piece of paper and you fill out which books you want.
Yeah. They still send home the little
Still makes me
paper.
happy.
I saw in Mark's backpack, I was like, wow.
I just thought I'd mention that. Thank you. Give me a little happy memory. In your Chromebook package tonight, you'll see the financials in there. There's been very little change since last month, but I will bring to your attention the three things that we talked about last month. The few deficits that we do have. On page 2 of the detail, there is a deficit under the technology department, and that is primarily from, those are some curriculum software packages that fall into technology. And we found out after our budget was passed that there was some per student rate increases that happened. But within the technology department, they have committed to staying within their budget. So they will stay within the budget that's been allotted to the technology department as a whole. So they will work to keep that within the budget confines that they do have. And then we'll use that information to help build 24's budget, so we'll keep that in mind. And then further on down that page in the bottom, you'll see there's a deficit in the electricity account. And well, we're predicting a deficit right now based on what happened last year of about $6,700. This year looks like it's not being quite as harsh as last year. But we're putting in the worst case scenario just so we can start to plan. And if we kind of have that in the back of our minds right now, we can kind of be looking towards that as we go through the year and kind of be a little hesitant on some things that maybe are a little discretionary. So we're kind of looking at that as the worst case scenario. And if we get more information that's more hopeful, we'll make adjustments. Or if we find information that's less hopeful, we'll make adjustments as we go through the year and get better information. And then on the next page, about 2/3 of the way down the page, there is a small deficit of $60. That's for tuition services that were needed. We'll just use that as we need to. It's necessary. We'll do what we need to do to get through the year on that. Special education accounts are all right now in a positive balance. I just want to caution you, the one thing that's not included yet are the tuition rates for our in-district programs. Those have not been calculated quite yet, so those are not included yet. So that the picture will change. I'm hoping it still be optimistic, but it will change, but those are not included. And then in our out-of-district vocational, we're just getting confirmation of all our students where they are, the transportation costs. So I'm projecting we'll have a pretty significant surplus there because we only have 3 students actually attending this year. So there should be sufficient balance there, and there will be a surplus for the end of the year. And again, this is just where we are at this moment in time. And we'll try to keep it updated as we go through the year. Are there any questions?
So I know Pembroke schools charge to ride the bus, like not special education buses, but the students charge. It's like a good amount of money. Would we do that? Is that because we're some part of civil agency?
That's why we can't do it because of how we organize the buses between the region and the elementaries.
Okay. I feel like that could help with our deficits here.
There are a lot of pluses and minuses based on how we do things and because of how we share the buses. So for Halifax, they pay a lot less for the buses because of how we share them. And if we didn't share them, they'd be paying double the cost of the buses, and that would change the whole.
Right, and then obviously Kingston don't want to pay for it, like they don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because of the arrangement of the sharing that would have to be altered if we decide to do something like that. So that's where the pluses and minuses come. You have to investigate thoroughly to see if that would work for all 4 of the entities, because our contract includes the 3 elementaries as well as Silver Lake right now. Right? It's a good thought, though. Maybe someday it could be fully investigated to see if.
Right,
and
one of my
another-
clients sent me what Pembroke charges, and I think it's like $400 a family, and like $100 to $200 a kid, and I'm like, that's insane, but they pay it, they don't,
Right.
there's no issue with it, and they've been doing it as long as I went to Pembroke school, so it's, the health rate, the tax rate's a lot lower than ours, so I don't know if that would help our taxpayers, but there's, I mean, we're also a funkier situation.
Right.
District, but just a thought.
Always worth asking. Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Lynch.
Thank you.
You're up.
Last week, the state released its state Mcas results, so just wanted to provide a little bit of overview of that information, a quick one of the state, and then a little bit more about the Halifax scores. These were shared electronically, so Mr. Beaudry offered to put up the presentation there, so I'll try to speak generally, but Mr. Beaudry will do his best for the people who are here in the audience to project the slides up there. If you can go to the second slide, that's okay. The second slide just is a reminder that over the past 4 years, Mcas was administered. That's the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System, so for grades 3 through 8. Each year, students are tested in math. Each year, students are tested in science. Only in grades 5 and 8 are students tested in science, technology, and engineering. So in 2019, the full test was administered, so you'll see some of those results. In 2020, because of the pandemic, no MCAS tests were taken. In 2021, the half test was in there. And in 2022, the full test was administered again. So that's just a refresh of the past 4 years in state testing. When DESE did their presentation last week, this is the whole presentation in one slide. Math scores were better. Statewide, ELA scores declined slightly. Grades 3 and 4 were down a little bit. 5 and 6 were up a little bit, and science scores increased slightly. Again, this is just the general explanation where things were in the state. And DESE commented on how much student absenteeism remains a challenge across the Commonwealth. They calculated the significant number of instructional hours that were lost due to student absences, as you can imagine, during the pandemic, afterward. So they're just trying to say that it's not the full sort of cause, but we need to factor in that when students are in school with their teachers, they typically do better. So a little bit about the Halifax MCAS results. So Cam on the slide that says, there's a slide that talks about the Halifax Elementary School ELA MCAS performance. It has a little graphic. Generally, Halifax students, 58% of our students in grades 3 through 6, they met or exceeded state expectations. So when you meet state expectations, that's the slide. That means that you are being assessed on the grade level standards for ELA. We had 9% here in Halifax exceeding that standard, 49% meeting it, and compared to the state, which was 41%. So that reflects that that percentage of students meeting them, and then 36% of students are approaching. So I think that reflects that our students are outperforming the state, and our teachers are helping students do that. And that's just a general overview of all of the ELA tests in grades 3 through 6. The next slide just gives you the 3 years, the past 3 MCAS tests, so that's 2019, 2021, and 2022. You can see that our numbers are pretty much consistent across the school, and you can see that the score in 2022 is lower than 2021. We're addressing students' learning needs after the pandemic. That's the big question mark that's not in there, is that we had school closures, we had hybrid learning during that time. So we've set a district goal where we want students to be at, and those are reflected in school goals, and our goal is, as Dr. Crew has said, for 70% of our students to be in exceeding and meeting. So we're trying to help students recover from the pandemic and meet or exceed the expectations, and that's for ELA. When you move to math, like I said, students, again, it's exceeding expectations, meeting, partially meeting, and not meeting. So 48% of Halifax students in grades 3 through 6 meet, next slide, Kane. They meet or exceed expectations compared to 39% statewide in grades 3 through 6. Statewide students are not achieving at the same level in math as they do in ELA, so that number looks a little bit lower, but again, where students in Halifax are performing significantly better than the average across the state. This is just information about the last 3 years. Again, students have shown the most significant slide in their math performance. That's reflected in the Halifax data as well. We're confident that with the next steps that are put in place, Mr. Broderick will talk about that a little bit, with improved attendance, that we can get student performance back to where it was. That's the measurement of where we're at right now. And finally, to this science slide, Kane, just as a reminder, science is taken for Halifax only in 5th grade. Next slide, please. Here in science, our students did particularly well in Halifax, with 67% of students in grade 5 meeting or exceeding expectations compared to 42% statewide. So that's, I think, spot-worthy accommodation for Halifax students and teachers across grade 5 for the high performance in science there. This is the 3rd year of the Next Generation Science Mcas, so students have done, and teachers have done very well in those areas, not just 5th grade, but also science instruction throughout the school. So I think a special shout out is in order for science. And in all subject areas really, but I think on the state test that one stands out. The next slide just shows you the past 3 times students have taken it here, a very strong increase, 5 percentage points the first time, and then 19 percentage points the second time in science.
It's huge.
Which is significant. Lastly, before Mr. Broderick takes over, just a reminder about student growth. So Mcas measures not only students' achievement, but then uses complex algorithms to compare students to one another across the state to say, we just don't want you to achieve high, we also want you to improve each year. So they calculate a growth percentage on a 0 to 100 scale, and they calculate one for the school. Basically, if it's 50, you're in the middle. They call it typical growth. Closer to 100 is high growth. Closer to 0 is lower growth. So they plot a little chart at the state. Next slide, please, Kane. Thank you. This slide for ELA just shows that students are achieving higher and growing more in ELA here in Halifax than the average in the state. So that's a good sign for our students and our teachers in our school. The second slide shows our math MCAS growth calculation. So our students are achieving at higher levels than is typical in the state, but our growth is a little bit on the lower side. Again, the pandemic is factored into that, but as we create goals for our students, we want to make sure that students are not only achieving high in math and ELA and science, but also growing. So this would be a spot where we can continue to redouble our efforts and make sure we saw that students are growing and achieving in ELA, and we believe that they can do the same thing in math. Mr. Broderick is going to talk a little bit about specific efforts that are underway here in Halifax and next steps based on this information.
Thanks, Ryan. So this is just a little chart that we put together that kind of summarizes a lot of what Ryan was talking about, but wanted to point out the kind of trend that we're seeing in 2019, 21, and 2022. in red here, you see the scores that Halifax Elementary is compared to the yellow in the state. So back in 2019, for ELA, for example, we were 7 percentage points above the state. And then in the pandemic year, we jumped up to 14 percentage points above the state. And then here in 2022, we jumped to 17%. So, and then in math, we went from 9 to 12, and then a little drop down to 10. And then for science, pre-pandemic, we were 4 percentage points below the state. Then in 21, we jumped up to 7, and then this past year, we jumped up to 16 percentage points above the state. So I thought this was kind of good because it consolidated all the grades in each of the areas. And then down the bottom are the goals that we're planning to reach that 70% benchmark by 2024. So for this school year, for 2023, we're looking at ELAs jumping up to 64% from where we're currently at 58. The math at 60%, and then the science, because we're pretty much almost close to meeting that benchmark already. So that's why we kicked it up a little bit higher to 74%, and then hopefully with the hopes of 80% in 2024.
Halifax leading the way.
That's good. That's why it's good to kind of, because when you look at numbers, you can really kind of look at certain things that your eyes go towards. So I thought it was important for us to kind of point out the successes that our school has had during the pandemic. And I think a lot of it, the successes we had in 2021 were from the model that we had that you guys supported here. So being above the state that much, definitely saw the drop from 19 to 21 across the state, but we were doing pretty well. So, but thought it was helpful to point that out. Here we just have trends and next steps for Halifax Elementary. So we have the implementation of collaborative literacy and tiered supports to address the differentiated literacy supports for students. So that's been in the works. Melissa Farrell has been heading that up, the curriculum committee, and the staff has had some training days on that, and it is full underway in K-5. The math program, Vision 2020, is in its year 3, aligned K-5. The UBD curriculum units are being developed, and the one of the way that we track student progress here is using STAR in grades 1 through 6. Full-time math interventions supporting classroom instruction and student interventions. Again, thanks to you for supporting that as we went from a part-time to a full-time position for math interventions. And then just to shout out again, that I already mentioned the strong achievement in grade 5, outperformed the state by 26%, which is a huge increase. We just mentioned the departmentalization model because it is the first year that in our building that 5th grade does go departmentalized, but that's some really great success when we have our staff that are really focusing on the standards and implementing them in the classroom. And this is the second slide for more trends and next steps. The support teams, they identify students who need more interventions, are getting progress monitored. Data meetings, K-6, to identify and target interventions for math and reading, using Mcas and STAR data. And then student absenteeism was an issue statewide, as obviously here as well. So we're trying to make sure we do a better job of tracking that attendance and reaching out to families that may need support. Getting those students to school. And that is it.
All set? Thank you. You guys have any questions for Mr. Lynch right now? It's a lot to digest sometimes. All right.
All right. So since we met last time, our administrative team met and reviewed our current district curriculum accommodation plan and the role of the support team in each of our schools to review data and provide interventions and support for students who may be struggling in school. Ryan and I and the principals also met with police and fire from all 3 towns to conduct our annual review of our emergency response plans. Principals will continue to work with police and fire to conduct drills throughout the school year. Also, this month, we have asked our principals to begin creating action plans for their goals, which will align with the district goals that were presented last month in school committee. We reviewed these plans on November 3rd as a team, and we're going to set a course to track our progress throughout the year. In your packet, you will find the budget timeline. Principals have been asked to start soliciting input from their staff to build their budget, and they've also been asked to provide a budget narrative as well as a multi-year capital plan for your consideration. This year, we've also provided all of our principals with an outline of what should be included in the budget narrative to help guide principals, such as an overview of how their requests align with a strategy for district improvement and their school improvement goals, the budget priorities for the upcoming year and the rationale, staffing, which may include current class sizes and anticipated class sizes, requests for additional staffing and rationale if necessary, any budget categories with a summary of any significant changes for your review, and a capital plan, which is typically 3 to 5 years for elementary schools, to be reviewed by this committee. Elementary principals are going to be setting up meetings with us and Christine and Matt Durkee to review the capital plans prior to their school committee presentations. The timeline in your packet, we have already met with the Kingston Budget Advisory Committee. That's required by their town's bylaw. That was already conducted. We've asked our principals, special education director, technology director, facilities coordinators, and department heads to begin thinking about what they're going to need for the upcoming budget season and what they're going to be requesting and why. It's also the time of year where I ask the school committee to begin thinking about what their goals and priorities are for the upcoming FY24 budget. In December, we'll have a joint meeting held for the presentation for the Administrator of Special Education, Technology, and the Elementary Curriculum Coordinator on current and possible future needs. And then in January, Christine and I present the school committee the FY24 preliminary budgets. In February, the chairman of the school committee members, and I hold a FY24 public budget hearing. In March, typically the school committee approves the fiscal 24-year budget and provides that to the town. And then town meetings occur usually by May. And that's generally the overview of the budget cycle, but there's more details in the timeline for your review. But I ask you to begin thinking about your goals and what you want us to consider as we begin our presentations for you. Then also in your package, you'll find the homeschool enrollment, and you'll see that for Halifax, which is in yellow, there's a slight decline by 2 students in homeschooling this year. And you'll see that in homeschool enrollment for secondary, there's a slight increase by 1 student. So overall, homeschooling is down. Also in your package, you'll see student enrollment, and you'll see that in elementary school, enrollment is down by 1 student at 563 as of October 1st. And in 7 through 12, Halifax enrollment, it has actually increased. There are 471 Halifax students attending our middle school and high school combined. Finally, in your packet, you will see the October 1 enrollment. Halifax is highlighted in yellow. If you look on the first page, you'll see the elementary total at 563. You'll see it, if you go over to the right, you'll see the middle school total of Halifax students at 157, and the number of students from Halifax in the high school at 314. Then to the far right, you'll see the high school and middle school combined total, and the grand total of 1,034 students from Halifax. You can also see as you go through the different, you'll see Kingston is parsed out, Plimpton, and then Silver Lake. On the back, which isn't the back anymore because it's actually in your online folder, you'll see the Silver Lake assessment percentages. In the second box, because we already went over the enrollment, so let's skip down to the second box, which is the Silver Lake percentages for this upcoming year. Halifax remains the same for their Silver Lake assessment, but for the shared cost assessment, Halifax has gone down since last year in their assessment. They're at 29.8% versus 30.4% for their shared cost percentage. And that's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you for all that information.
You're welcome.
I'm glad that we don't have
Big increase.
swings. Yeah, big swings and increases, because that's, we're in trouble enough. Anybody have any questions for right now? All right, excellent, thank you. With that, we need, actually, before we adjourn for executive session, there's a few dates to remember. October 10th is Columbus Day, so there's no school. October 27th is an early release for grades K through 6 for parent conferences, 12:30 release after lunch. November 8th is an in-service day for teachers, so there's no school on that day. November 11th is Veterans Day, also no school. The 14th of November is our next school committee meeting. And as mentioned earlier, we have a joint school committee meeting with the rest of the Silver Lake District on December 1st. So with that, we need a motion.
Point of information. I just have a question. If one of your subcommittee is going to be meeting on curriculum, is that an open meeting and will that be posted, or is that a closed meeting?
It's a good question. Does it have to be posted because it's a subcommittee?
Subcommittees generally aren't if there's not a quorum. They're not posted, but
they can be.
They can be.
Will they be posted?
I don't know yet.
Pardon me?
I don't know yet. I don't have an answer for you yet.
I think the public would like to know before you adjourn.
Okay, well, I don't, what's that? Okay. Yeah, we can have the answer for you at the next meeting. So right now I need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
One quick note, please, if it's okay with the committee.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you for having me here. My name is Dave Mosker. I'm running for selectman for the town of Halifax. Along with me is another candidate who was also invited here. I just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you to the committee.
Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the reasons listed, only to return to open session for the purpose of adjournment.
I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session, MGL 38, Section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for contract negotiation in executive session pursuant to MJLC 38 S21A7 to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law and approval of executive session minutes from 8/29/20. And to return to regular session to adjourn.
Can I get a second? Thank you for doing that, Lauren. Roll call on executive session, so Jess?
Oh, aye.
Lauren?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Yep. Myself is yes. All right. That's it. Thank you.